Welcome to Cards by Kendra. I'm Kendra Morgan, and today I'm excited to share with you some of the cards that I made from alcohol ink backgrounds and the Encouraging Words stamp set from Hurley Create. These were backgrounds that I made the very first time I tried using alcohol inks. So I am by no means a professional, but I thought that some of these turned out pretty good. So let me share with you how I did this. This one here and this one here, these are both made with Yupo translucent paper, and this one is on photo paper. I will tell you that the ink moved a lot better on the Yupo paper. So I am using the alcohol lift ink on these backgrounds. This first one here is a background that I made using alcohol pearls in Enchanted, which is the pink color, and then Envy, which is the green color, and then I've also added the rose gold mixative to that. So I am placing this on my stamping platform, and I'm using the prom dress background stamp from Hurley and applying the alcohol lift ink to that. I will tell you that you want to make sure that your background stamps are super clean if you're using a brand new white alcohol lift ink, otherwise you're going to turn it whatever color you used last on that stamp. So here I've pressed the background stamp down onto the background, and I am putting a gatefold card base down in here to transfer this over. And you will notice here that it does not give a very dark impression at all. And I think that that's because of the mixative. I don't think that the alcohol lift ink works very well with those mixatives. So you'll probably only want to use backgrounds that you've made with alcohol inks or alcohol pearls. Now I'm just wiping that clean with a dry paper towel, and you can't really see much on it. So I'm gonna move on to this next background. Now I'm using the Jewel Heist background stamp, and I've just used that middle section. And so I'm doing the same thing, inking that up and using a cloth just to kind of press down firmly so that I get a good smooth impression. This particular background was made with using alcohol pearl inks. The purple color was Villainous, the pink color was Intrigue, and the blue color or teal color was Tranquil. Now I'm just taking a card base and I am transferring the color over onto that, and this one turned out much better than the last one. Even though the colors are still light, I think that I can actually use this to make a card. So now I'm gonna take my background and a wet paper towel, not a wet paper towel, a dry paper towel, and I am just rubbing across this to remove that ink from that alcohol lift ink stamp. And you will see now that there is a distinct stamp mark here where the last background didn't exactly do that. I put way too much alcohol ink here in the center, so I'm just trying to get that clump off. Like I said, this was the very first time I used alcohol inks. So here's a close-up of that first background, and you can kind of sort of see the leaves and the flowers in the pink and green areas. But again, I didn't end up using this background to make a card because you couldn't really see what was going on. So now I am taking just some lemon and orange stamps and trying to do an alcohol lift from the background that I made with photo paper, and as you can see, nothing happened here. You have to use some porous paper, Yupo paper. Photo paper just doesn't work. So here's another background that I made using Yupo paper, and I am taking a stencil now. I believe this is called the Lou. I have to confirm that, but anyway, I am taking a sponge and I have applied the alcohol lift re-inker to the end of that, and I am just gently rubbing it through all of the holes on this intricate stencil, and it is pulling the ink off. So I've had to add some more re-inker to that, and it gives us this really cool background. I made sure to cover every part of this so that whenever I place this cardstock on the top of it, it will transfer all of those beautiful colors over. This was a background that I had made using the felt applicators. So I wasn't real crazy about it. That's why I was kind of experimenting here with the stencil, but I think it turned out pretty good. This is really cool, so I'm gonna have to come up with something to make a card with this. And so now that I'm removing the stencil, I'll be taking a paper towel and then just wiping off all of that excess alcohol ink, and you can see those really cool bathroom tile looks. Okay, so time to start making the card for this background. I'm using a sheet of 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock and the I'm So Proud of You stamp from the Encouraging Words stamp set from Simon Hurley Create. And I'm starting with Simon Hurley's Remember Me ink, and then Crown Me, which is the purple one. And then I'm adding the Prom Queen. Let me scoot this over so you can see it. I'm just using the edge of it because I wanted to have all three colors. They match this background pretty good, I thought. So now I've taken this and cut it out using the postage stamp die. Now I'm trimming my background down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So now I'm just taking a piece of 110-pound heavyweight cardstock that I got from Michael's. It's in the Oceans Recollection set, and I'm just scoring it down the middle for my card base. I'm taking some glossy accents and I'm adding it into the little triangles inside these little diamond shapes. And I'm only adding it to the spots that are going to show because that sentiment is going to go in the middle there. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and work on this other card. I am using the hot pink cardstock. It's another heavyweight cardstock by Recollections from the Ballerina set. And I'll be using the same blue from the Ocean set as my frame. And I'm using this same blue to stamp the You Are a Blessing stamp from that same Encouraging Words stamp set, as well as this little flower. And because I'll be stamping this with Versamark ink, I'm adding some anti-static powder. And now I'm applying the Versamark ink, and I will be coating this with some white embossing powder. So after applying my heat tool to the embossing powder, I cut it out using that same postage stamp die, and now I am just folding my card base. So because this Yupo paper was translucent, I did not think about being able to see the glue lines when I glued these down. So my recommendation would be to add some liquid glue to a sponge and then just dab it on so that it won't show through. This background, you couldn't really see through it, but the other one you kind of could, but I think it's still okay. So now I'm just adding those sentiment pieces to the center using some 3D foam squares. I wanted to pop those up to give it some dimension. Now I'm just adding a rhinestone to the center of the flower and then a matching rhinestone to the other card. Moving on to the alcohol ink background that I made on photo paper. I didn't want to try to emboss on photo paper not knowing if it would work, so I decided to try it out. I stamped on just a regular plain white sheet with some Versamark ink, and I am adding some gold embossing glitter. This didn't exactly stamp out perfectly, but this is just a test run anyway, just to make sure I can emboss on photo paper. And you will see here, I don't know if you can actually tell in the video, but the paper starts to bubble up. So learning experience, definitely don't try to heat emboss on photo paper. Okay, so now I'm taking the photo paper background, and this is a brand new stamp, so that's why it's sticky. It actually lifted off some of that metallic ink. But I am using Ranger archival ink, and I actually have to do this several times so that it will get a good impression. It's still pretty sticky. So I trimmed the photo paper down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I've taken a matching card base and I've applied a black frame, and now I'm just gluing this down with some deluxe adhesive. To finish off this card, I'm just adding a little tiny bee embellishment that's got a rhinestone head, and gluing that down, and I'll be finished with this card. So these are the finished cards. This is the photo paper alcohol ink background, and then this is the pink, purple, and teal made on Yupo paper, translucent paper, and then this is the one that I made using the alcohol ink felt applicators with the stencil. And this is the very first background that I tried to do the alcohol lift ink on. I attempted to heat emboss on this, and as you can see, it is warped. So this is definitely a learning experience. You can't heat emboss on photo paper or Yupo paper unless any of you guys know of a trick out there. Please comment below if you do. Let me know what you think about this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook at Cards by Kendra, and have a wonderful day. Happy paper crafting!